Look, it's easier to know who's talking to you. This is me. Yeah, my name is Peter van den Broek. I'm from Belgium. I'm an EFL teacher, English as a foreign language, and I also do some ICT coordination in our school, which basically brought me to this topic when after a lockdown last school year. We had a semi-lockdown in our country, and but students could come in and sit exams before New Year. But we were confronted with the fact that some of them were quarantined at that time. So there was an option to have them sit the exams after New Year, which would lead them to a series of Wednesdays afternoons of coming in. Or we could find a system in which they would do the exam at home in a kind of secured environment, which led us to BookWidgets. You can't just use this secure system for doing exams, because actually since November, my students have hardly done any testing on paper. Most of them, we had a system in which students would come in every other day for classes, and the other days they would be at home. Most of the tests I organized were online while my students were at home. How that works, that's what we're going to have a look at. Okay, what exactly will we be running through? There's an exam mode in BookWidgets, which just limits the time students can work on a widget. But you can also integrate BookWidgets with Safe Exam Browser, which creates a safe environment. We'll be having a look at that, what's possible using Safe Exam Browser, but there are some limitations, there's some pits you have to avoid. Okay, we're going to look at all the settings you need to adjust when you want to create an exam widget. Okay, and some tips and tricks when you publish a remote exam. Yeah, what you should mind to avoid leaking all your questions afterwards, etc. So at the end, you'll know how to check all the settings, yeah, and we'll try and answer the question: is the system waterproof? I can answer that. Of course, it's not. There's no waterproof system. Okay. First, let's have a look at what's the difference between exam mode and Safe Exam Browser. Okay, I'll 1 second. I'll switch my screen to my BookWidgets account. Okay, and I'll open up this widget for you, which I am this one, for example. Okay. If you go into a BookWidget, yeah, and you go to title reporting, yeah, at the bottom you can change the settings and it says exam mode. Okay, if you open exam mode and enable it, what you can do is you can set a time limit for students to work in a BookWidget. So it's set to 60 minutes now. So from the moment they start, a timer will start running. Okay, it won't stop. So if a student leaves the widget and returns, the time will have continued. Okay, and after that time, it's kind of auto-submitted, the widget. So that's what exam mode does. Is exam mode secure? Not really, because you can open up this widget in exam mode, and a student can open a second tab in his or her browser and try and find answers. Now, limiting the time, yeah, maybe gives you the security they don't have enough time to look up every answer, but there's no security whatsoever. So this is exam mode, yeah. If you go to general, yeah, in the settings, at the bottom there's a line which says Safe Exam Browser. Okay, and this says yes. Now, what happens if you have this activated, open in Safe Exam Browser, is that when you publish this widget to your students and they will try and open it, it will only open in a program you have to install on your computer, which is called Safe Exam Browser. Okay, where can you find it? Well, just Google it, Safe Exam Browser. Okay, there we go. This is where you can download it. I believe it was written, the software, by the University of Geneva. Yeah. And students will have, if you use the mode, so if you activate this, open and save exam browsers, students will have to install this software on their computer. When they open the widget, yeah, second browser tab will open, and they will get the question, do you want to open this link using Save Exam Browser? If they say yes, they have to say yes. What actually happens is that the program Save Exam Browser opens, yeah, and it will lock everything on the computer of the student. So they will only be able to work within Save Exam Browser and within that single tab of your book widget. So student won't be able to open second tabs to look for answers or Google any answers. You will just be able to work within the widget you've offered to him. Once they finished it, they click submit. They will also get the question, do you want to close Save Exam Browser now? They go yes, and they get their computer back. Yeah. So that's how it, in short, works. Okay, that's the difference between Save Exam, working with Save Exam Browser, SEB, yeah, and the exam mode. Exam mode just limits your time. Save Exam Browser locks the student within the widget, makes it unable for the student to do anything else. Now, then we get the first limitations. Okay. Save Exam Browser, the software Save Exam Browser, only works on these platforms. There's a Windows version, which works best on the Windows 10. Yeah. There's a version for your Apple computer, Mac, and there's also a version which goes on iOS, so you can use it on an iPad or on your iPhone. There's no version for Save Exam Browser for an Android device or for Chromebooks. Now, for Chromebooks, there is a workaround. Okay, you can put a Chromebook in kiosk mode, yeah, which will make it unable for the student to break out of the website you've put in the kiosk, which basically is the widget you will be presenting it. The downside to that workaround for Chromebooks is that it's not something you can do yourself. So making a book widget and putting it in exam mode with Save Exam Browser, yeah, is something you can do yourself completely. You just have to make sure all your students have Save Exam Browser installed. If you would want to make a book widget and have it offered secured to your students on Chromebooks, you will have to ask your someone of your IT help desk to set up the kiosk mode on the Chromebooks. So they can only open it there. It's not something you can do yourself. So that's a downside. It's possible to do secured exams on Chromebooks, but not with Save Exam Browser. Okay. Now, basically, you're the teacher. What you need to do, you first need to set up a widget. I'm going to run through a widget into the different settings. Yeah, the ones I showed you a second ago, this diagnostic test. I'm going to run through the settings, yeah, and have a look at what you need to set up to get a kind of secure widget. Okay, first of all, there's the questions you need to set up. And then we go to title reporting. Of course, yeah, you enable submitting of answers, which is quite logical because otherwise nobody will be able to make the exam. And it's best to set it allowed to students to submit only once. Yeah, so they can only do the exam or the test once. Okay, you don't have to change much here. And whether you use exam mode or not is something you choose for yourself. Do you want to limit the time students can work on the exam, or you can just have them work as long as they want? Yeah, and it's something you choose for yourself. it's best not to turn on if you put on a time limit, yeah, not to allow them to reset the timer. Okay, if you put this on, there's not much use in setting a timer because at the end they can reset it. Okay, we move to the general settings. Okay, correction options. Okay, it's best to turn this off. Yeah. Well, in Belgium here, teachers don't like to have their exams published publicly because they reuse questions or assignments in them every year. And it would be kind of easy if you would immediately show all the answers you've put into your exam afterwards, if it autocorrects, because yeah, they might just start to pass around. Okay, color correct answers immediately. We disabled that as well. We don't show the score, okay, and the always allow editing, yeah, we turn off as well, so the student might, if there's some time limit left, now return and change answers. Okay, so basically you remove the viewing of answers when the test is finished. Okay, scoring options, you can turn this on, yeah, which is kind of fair, so students know how the scoring in your exam works and they get a fair idea. If they get troubled with the time limit, what questions would be best to do first, because there's more points or scores associated with that certain question. Allow sharing, of course. We don't want our students to share nor download the widget. Okay, save and restore answers would be best to turn on. Why? Because it is possible that during the exam suddenly students lose control of their computer, it breaks down or whatever. They can reopen the exam and continue in another device or in the same device if they reboot, and what they already filled in will be shown. Okay, you can add a starter password, which is a good idea if you publish it, and your students are ready, then you just give them the password and then they can only start. Okay, answer keys, if you filled in answers but we've chosen not to show them, you can add a password here so they can have a look at them. It's probably a setting you know which is not really associated with a specific exam. Spell check is on. Okay, in language exams it will be better to turn it off. Okay, they don't need a calculator, the equation editor, if you could, these are all plain settings. And then there's the safe exam browser, which you also turn on if you want students to do this in a safe environment. Okay, in advanced, what you can do is have, but you need the help of an IT specialist, you can make a template for your SEB, for your safe exam browser session, in which students might have 2 tabs open. But I'll have a word about that because that's also a downside which can happen. It's something I've actually never used before. Okay, so these are the general settings, which we'd have a look at. Localization design is something you could do, but basically by turning this on, we've made a safe exam browser exam. Now what happens? Okay, how do you get this to your students? I'm going to return to that. Okay, first of all, what your students need to do, and that's on the next screen, I'm going to show you. 1 second. Okay, what do students need to do? They need to install Safe Exam Browser on their device. And what I have them do is do a test widget. If you ask a student to do something beforehand, chances are he'll wait like 5 minutes before the deadline you want to have him do it, and then he'll only start doing it. So what I did when I started to use this system with my students, is I had them install Safe Exam Browser, and the day before the first time I used it for a test, I had them do a test widget. What exactly is the test widget? I'll show you. Return to BookWidgets. Okay. Close this widget for a second. Don't have to update that. This is the test widget. Okay. I'll preview it for you. Okay. So I published this test widget for the students, which they can only open using Safe Exam Browser. So I published it to our learning management system. We use Microsoft Teams. Yeah. When they open the assignment, click the link to this widget. Yeah. They would get the question, do you want to open this with Safe Exam Browser? So they would need to have Safe Exam Browser installed on their device to be able to complete this widget. Okay. It says if you can read this text, you have successfully, oh, there's a typo there, installed Safe Exam Browser. Complete the question below. Installed successfully, yes, no, no clue what you're on about. Okay, if they can answer the question, of course, there are students that do no. Yeah, but if they can answer this one, I know they have Safe Exam Browser installed because that's the only way to open it. Yeah, so I could check in that way if my students had Safe Exam Browser installed. Okay, to return to this one. So they install SEB, they do a test widget. I'm going to return to what do teachers do now? Get back, okay. So you publish the test widget, you have them do it, yeah. You create your exam widget, okay. I'm going in a second show two ways of drawing up an exam in BookWidgets. A quick way, which is a really ugly way, and then you can just draw up any widget you want. Well, not any widget you want, a normal book widget, okay. What we do also is, of course, when you have a student working at home on his or her computer, you have no idea what they have on their desk with them. So what we do is we start what we call a surveillance meeting. You can do that using Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, or whatever. You start a meeting, and students will have to join that meeting using their mobile phone, and they will have to join the meeting using their mobile phone, and they would have to set it up next to them, so you have kind of an idea of what they have on their desk around their computer. And during the session, I will ask students to show me their, I would pick out a student and ask them, could you show me what's on the wall behind your computer? So they have an idea that they are being watched, yeah, that they know that someone is looking at them. Now, if you want to do that, having students at home working like that, you will have to have a look at privacy, which means that you will have to ask permission of the parents to do that. Now, we asked parents the permission to open a video call like that to observe their children when they were doing an exam at home. We had parents objecting to that, and we offered them the choice of having it done like that, or having the students come back after New Year and sitting exams for like weeks on end on Wednesday afternoon. And at that point, the choice was kind of made quickly, and they said it was okay. You will need to ask permission, as we do also take screenshots when we think that a student is cheating, or we make a recording. So you will need permission for that. When you start a surveillance meeting, students join on a different device than what they are doing the exam and this meeting. And so you can have a look at them, what they are doing. Next, you publish the widget. And it says only 10 minutes. Why? What we do is we want students to all start at the same time doing a test or the exam. And we publish the widget to Teams, or you can do it to Google Classroom. In Belgium, there's also a system called Smart School, which you can use it to publish to, and it gets published as an assignment there. Now, students open the assignment, they start the widget. What you don't want is students coming in late, yeah, and starting the exam late when they've at some way, because there's no waterproof system, already know what questions might be in the exam. So what we do is we publish the widget. Once the students have all started, we remove the assignment from the learning management system, so they can't return. Okay, you unpublish the widget after about 10 minutes when everything starts, and then you can start to do surveillance during the sitting of the exam. You can do that using Zoom, using Teams, using the Google Meetings. I don't know the exact name, sorry. And you can also observe what students do using live widgets. Okay, I'm sure that most of you know what live widget is. I'm going to have a look at it shortly. Okay, if you go to the live, okay, you get a list of all widgets you've recently used. Okay, I've did a test one here. Okay, yeah, she had no SEB, and you can see that this Maria, she did the exam. You can see the envelope. She already submitted the answers. And but when students are actually working on widgets, yeah, you can see how long ago they've changed something, which should be under like 2 to 3 minutes for most of them. And you can see in the bar which questions they already completed, which they have already, which ones they have already filled in. Okay, so that's another way of observing. I caught a student cheating by looking at these live widgets, because I noticed that at the start of the test, the first was basically a blanks exercise doing vocabulary. And I noticed that at the beginning of the test, he'd completed most of the exercise, but of the 20 words, only 2 were correct. And then suddenly, after the test had advanced for some point, he returned, and suddenly he had most of them correct. So I asked him to take his cell phone and camera show me his desk, when I noticed that in some way he had popped up his vocabulary list, his glossary, and started cheating like that. So using this live widgets is a way of also checking on students when they are doing tests or exams at home, whether they are cheating or not. Okay. I'm returning to, 1 second, switching screens here from time to time. So, okay, so you can do the surveillance for the exam using meetings or using live widgets. I'm going to pop back to the students side. Actually, how does it work for them? So after they've installed SEB, done the test widget, something you should do at least, well, at the latest, the day before you're going to sit the exam, okay? They start participating in the surveillance meeting, okay? And then they start the exam widget. So I can't show you how it works, as I would get locked out of this meeting and the exam when opening a Save Exam Browser widget. So they start the exam widget. Second tab opens. They get the question, do you want to open Save Exam Browser? Actually, they will get a warning that a program is trying to, a computer program is trying to take over their computer. Now, in every other case, if you get a question on your computer, is this okay? You should say no, but with Save Exam Browser, it is safe. They should click yes there. Save Exam Browser opens. They can do the exam. At the end, they click submit. Yeah, and then they, it depends on the computer you're working on. Sometimes SEB closes automatically, and sometimes they have a question, do you really want to close SEB? It says yes, and that's the end of it. Some students get confused. What they do is they open SEB and try and open something from there. That's not something they have to do. they click the link for the book widget, and they will be asked to open SEB, Safe Exam Browser. So that's the way it works. Okay. I'm popping back here. You get the live, okay, students do their exams, and then you need to go to grades and reporting. Now, before I continue, there's something you need to watch out for. There's some do's and don'ts when you want to do safe exams with BookWidgets. Now, not every type of widget works good with SEB. You should restrain yourself to using the worksheet or the split worksheet or a quiz in combination with SEB. Especially don't use the web quest. Why not the web quest? Because basically a web quest is a placeholder, and so is the planner, okay? Is a placeholder for other widgets. So if you would open up a web quest within Safe Exam Browser, students would have to click the links to the other widgets, and they kind of slip out your protected environment. So a web quest or a planner, which kind of does the same thing, don't use them because you're creating a tunnel back to information which might be on the computer. Okay, same as you can't use every type of question. Most of them work just fine, yeah, but avoid using YouTube embeds. Okay, why not? If you embed a YouTube video, students have the possibility of clicking, yeah, the YouTube icon, which is, I believe, is at the left top corner, yeah, and in that way, creating a tunnel outside of SEB. Okay, so don't use the YouTube embed function, okay, and also don't use the photo upload, yeah. There's a question in which you can ask a student to take a picture and upload it. That's not a good idea, because what happens is when you click photo upload, a dialog will pop up in which a student has to point to a file to upload, and you've just created a tunnel to every single file on the user's computer. So he's using SEB, he can't do anything else, but by opening that, students could open, yeah, or could have a look at pictures of glossary lists of certain theory questions you could have prepared. They can have a look at them, yeah, and they can, yeah, open them and upload them into SEB, which is not basically something they need to do in an exam. So don't use that question as well. Also, using web embed could lead to the same things. If you use an embedded web page, yeah, clicking links might lead the students to websites they're not supposed to use during the exams. Now, YouTube embed is not a good idea in a Safe Exam Browser exam, because it might lead you out. You could upload your videos, yeah, but that's restricted to a video of 10 megabytes, which is not really a lot. And you will find yourself, if you download a video from YouTube, which is illegal, I should say, and resize it to 10 megabytes, you will find that the quality of the video will be that low that it's probably not really a good idea to use it. You might wonder, why do I or do we embed YouTube videos in BookWidgets? I'm a language teacher, so I might use it to do a listening test. Students watch a video or listen to the sound and have to answer questions. Now, what you might wonder is it really necessary, yeah, for skills tests like that, which do not really test for something you need to study or learn by heart, but tests a skill, if it's really necessary to have them use Safe Exam Browser? Okay. Same with reading skills. Is it really necessary for the students to use Safe Exam Browser to do those tests? It's a choice you have to make for yourself. Okay. So what I basically do with listening exercises, I don't use SEB. I set a time limit. If they have to watch a video, which is 5 minutes long, I give them about 12 to 13 minutes to complete the listening test, which does not give them the possibility to listen and re-listen. Because if they stop the video each time to answer a question, they might find out that 12 minutes is too short to do that. So they would have to listen, or they will have to listen to the video, watch the video first, and then do the questions, or they run out of time. So it's just some advice I tend to give. Okay. I'll skip back to BookWidgets now. Okay, here we are. I told you about 10 minutes ago or so that I would show you 2 ways of drawing up a widget, yeah, to do an exam. Okay, I'll open up this folder. Okay, you could use a split worksheet. I've got a widget here, which is a voorbeeldexamen, which is basically an example. Okay, Dutch name there. What we found then is in the exam session before New Year, we would have a parent calling in to school the evening before an exam that the kid wouldn't be able to come in the next day because of high risk contact with someone who was infected. So they would have to stay at home, and then teachers would quickly have to draw up their exam using BookWidgets. Okay. Now, doing it in full with all the questions correct, like I showed you this diagnostic test, which has actually every single question in the exam in this widget. Okay, it might take time, and some teachers were going to do, I still have to do this by tomorrow. So what the advice I gave them is to use a split worksheet. Okay, and look in this one, there's instructions and there's 3 questions. Okay, I use a split worksheet, which I'm going to show you. Okay, it's a really old exam. It's from 2014, in which I have the timer set on. 1 second. I'm going to first turn the exam mode off, which is easier. Okay, so basically this is the exam as an example. So you would have on the left side a PDF version of the exam the other students would be getting on paper in class, and on the left side, okay, basically the exam is in 3 parts, 1 on every unit we'd covered that semester. Okay, and I just made a text question, a large text question at the right, in which the student had to fill in the answers, which is not a really neat way of solving the problem, but it did work. Because what happened was that none of the teachers objected in doing this. It's not a neat way of doing it. A neater way of doing it, of course, is by just drawing up an exam like this one, in which you put everything into questions. And I basically forgot the same thing, and that is, sorry, turning off the exam mode in which time is restricted. Okay, preview now. So this is a widget, as you all know, in which there is also a question, which I kind of bungled up the layer of the text there. Okay, with a small listening part in it as well. Okay, now what I did is I divided this one into sections, and that is, if I close, yeah, and I look at the questions, where you see part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. What they are, if you add question, you can say you can add a text, an informational piece of text. What it does is, if you add a piece of text like part 4, this is just plain text, it sections your exam. Anything between 1 and 9 here, between part 1 and part 2, all these questions, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, okay, I can, and now I need to see question order and number. I can randomize my question order. Now, what happens if I randomize my question order? If I have 20 students drawing up this book widget, okay, they will all see the questions in a different order. This is something neat if you like. We all hope that from next school year on, there will be no more learning from home, yeah. But we've started a project here in Flanders known as DigiSprong, in which every student is supposed to get a government-funded laptop they can use in class and at home. So actually, we can do some certain amount of testing in the class as well. Now, if they all have their laptop open, students from the back of the class would be able to look at the screens of the students at the front of the class, of course, and cheat in that way. If you randomize question order, it will appear in some way that they are doing a different test. Okay. Now, if you want your certain questions to stick together in a way, you put them between 2 text parts in your widget. That will mean in randomizing question order, question 2 to 8 will randomize, yeah, but they will stay between these 2 text parts. Same, part 2 is a text question here, and so is part 3. Okay. All the questions between these 2 text parts will be randomized, but they won't switch to another section. Okay. So in that way, students, well, it appears to students as if they are doing a different test, but actually is the same. That's working with sections. I believe there is an instructional video on that on the BookWidgets website as well, on working with sections. Okay, so that is a way of drawing up your exam as well, doing this one, plain widget, yeah, or a combination of both. Okay, I don't update the shared copy. Okay, and I return to this one. Okay, so I've covered using what widgets can you use, what questions can you use, what questions should you avoid, and wondering whether they can do. For correction and feedback, there is a difference in correction and feedback between, I believe, what we consider a test, which you do during school year, and an exam, which is kind of more official testing and covers bigger parts. Okay, that's why when you do an exam, normally when you do a test, is the student does a test, you correct it, you send it back to the student, they actually get the tests with their answers and your corrections, and they keep that. And here in Belgium, they have to hand it in at the end of the year for if inspection comes along. Now, for an exam, we don't do that. Students can, they do the exam, you correct it, they get their grades, and afterwards they can come to the teacher and have a look at the exam to get feedback. Now, what we don't usually do is mail back the results to the students with all the questions and the answers, because that would mean that you would have to draw up a completely new exam every year, which we try and avoid to do. So you don't mail back the results. And we also, what I explained earlier on, is we publish the assignment, yeah, and once all the students start, we unpublish it from the platform, so they won't be able to restart. But also, after they've submitted it in BookWidgets, they won't be able to click on their submission again. I'll show you what I mean. If I this one, okay, a second ago, and with the live widgets, I showed you this dummy account we use for Maria, in which what I did is I published, yeah, a test on Teams, they've completed it. There will be more examples here. Okay. Something is going wrong. Okay. Definitely. Okay, the diagnostic test. What Maria can do now here is she can click on the submission, okay, and go and have a look at it. Okay, teacher hasn't returned it. Once the teacher has returned it, they actually get a full view of all the questions. Okay, we don't want that. So as a teacher, I unpublish this, which means that the results are still in BookWidgets, but won't be seen in the learning management system. So that is what I mean with unpublishing your widget within your learning management system. You don't mail back the results. Now, students are, of course, entitled to feedback. Well, I give them feedback just in the way I do with a written exam on paper. Okay, what you should do is you should export a PDF after you've corrected the exam or the test, and they just as they come in and have a look at their exam on paper and you give them oral feedback, you can have a reading of the exam and you can give them feedback. How do you do that? Return to BookWidgets. Okay, I go to grades and reporting. You get the different classes you teach. Here's the test class I have. Okay. Okay. This is the one I had a look at. Okay. You can see that Maria took the test. I can click it to correct it. Okay. You can add comments. Have my parents, okay, order the jacuzzi? Well, they had to drop a question word question, to which the answer was my question, and then I can click this. Actually, it's best would be to click the first word. I enter the comment. This is an inversion question, not a question word question. Okay. No typos, I hope. Okay, yeah. You can correct the exam. Yeah, you can add general comments to the complete question or to specific words or answers they've given. Yeah, and at the end you can click here, open as a PDF. Okay, it's been downloaded. Okay, and you can show the student this one. They can have a look at. You can print it, okay, which is of course not really a good idea because using BookWidgets is a good way to avoid paper waste. Okay, they can have a look at, and you can discuss their exam with all the comments you've made, so they have a fair idea what is going on, and you can keep this. Okay, in that way you can give feedback like you would do with another exam without having to give a copy of the exam and the questions to the student. Okay, you can actually, if you have a full list of students, now there's only 2 here, only 1 made, you can select all of them, and then you can do download PDFs here, and you would get for every single student downloaded the corrected PDF. Okay, you can, some teachers actually prefer that with a longer exam. You could do the unprepared, uncorrected exam, download the PDFs and correct it on paper as well. But again, might be considered as a bit of a waste of paper. Okay, so that's the export as a PDF and have them come in for reading, which has brought us about to the end of most of the things I wanted to explain. And now I do have a cheat sheet here with my with me, so I can have a look if I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, installing, what does SEP do? Okay, a bit of advice with SEP, yes, if you have students doing exams, okay, they install SEP. I always, if it's possible, advise them to either go and sit as close to the Wi-Fi access point they can, or try and use actually connect using UTP cable, yeah, instead of using Wi-Fi. So they are connected all the time. I've had students in the past that were working in Safe Exam Browser, lose Wi-Fi connection, and that is a problem because then answers aren't saved and they can't submit. So try and advise them by connecting with a cable to the internet if they can. Okay. Shoulds and shouldn'ts, we've covered that. Okay. So this one, oh, sorry for this back and forward. Okay, it says don't use YouTube embed, the photo upload, web embed. What does you work and is safe is anything you directly put into your book widget. That is a maximum of 10 megabyte video file or audio file, or a PDF you would embed, or you would enclose a picture or a photo in a book widget. That all works fine. Once you use something which can link outside, like a YouTube video, a web page you embed, it's possible for students to find their way out. Okay.